This is Tomonews for Monday, January 9th.
When selfies go wrong, teen falls off cliff in Italy. A 16-year-old teen girl fell to her death while trying to take a picture of herself on this overlook. Taranto, Italy, in the southeast of the country, is famous for its seafront vistas and edifices. And 16-year-old Isabella Ferraciola, who was on a school trip, wanted to capture the moment. Anxious to get a selfie, she perched upon one of the banisters surrounding an overlook in a plaza, but she lost her balance, plunging 18 meters onto the rocky shore below, suffering multiple injuries to her head, spine, and legs. In the end, doctors couldn't save her. The next time you want a picture of yourself, it's probably better to ask another person before putting yourself in harm's way.
Lion mauls tourist to death during South African safari. A 22-year-old American woman was killed and another man was seriously injured Monday after they both were pulled through a car window by a lion near Johannesburg. Gauteng Lion Park is a popular tourist attraction that gives people a rare opportunity to see African wildlife up close and personal. Scott Simpson, the park's assistant operations manager, says the details of the incident are sketchy but believes the unidentified American couple had been traveling in a vehicle with its windows open. While the female tourist was taking photos, a lion is believed to have jumped through the passenger window and taken a bite out of her. The man who was driving attempted to push off the massive cat, but was injured in the struggle. By the time park staff and emergency responders reached the couple, it was already too late. The woman succumbed to her injuries. The fatal incident is the park's third major attack in just 4 short months. In March, Australian tourist Brendan Smith was mauled by a lion, and 2 days later, a 13-year-old boy was attacked by a cheetah. Although the park gives clear instructions to visitors to keep windows closed when touring the area, Simpson says people rarely listen. Park officials say they plan to put down the lion involved in this recent incident.
City thunderstorm asthma disaster hits Australia. 4 people are dead after a thunderstorm triggered massive asthma flare-ups in Melbourne on Monday night. A storm that raged through the city shortly before 6 p.m. brought with it extreme levels of ryegrass pollen, causing a rare phenomenon known as thunderstorm asthma. Whole pollen fragments, typically released on hot, windy days, are usually large enough to be trapped by nose hairs before they can get into the airways. But sudden weather changes can cause the larger pollen fragments to be swept up into storm clouds, where they absorb moisture and explode into thousands of tiny particles. The allergens are carried back to the ground and easily dispersed by the wind over long distances. When inhaled, they can trigger attacks in those who suffer from asthma or pollen allergies, though even non-sufferers can struggle to breathe. Experts say there is no way to predict the phenomenon, since storms on high pollen count days don't always result in thunderstorm asthma.
Minneapolis middle school kids get a head start in progressive sex ed.
Visiting an adult novelty store is certainly educational, but double-pronged dildos for 12-year-olds, maybe not. The small private liberal Gaia Democratic School in Minneapolis wants to provide a safe and welcoming environment for students to learn about sexual behavior. But instead of taking these 11 to 13-year-old kids to the local zoo, the school's director, Starry Hedges, took them to Smitten Kitten, a progressive sex toy store for everyone. Seriously pornographic stuff was allegedly removed during the kids' visit, but they still got to view the shop's extensive collection of toys and leather products. The school says the visit capped a month-long sex education class, but surely you want to wait till you're like 14, right, before you learn how to tie bondage knots. Director Hedges, who also heads up the sex education program, said she thought the entire experience was beautiful. Yeah, man, and check out this rock, it's so smooth. Oh, and look at that flower, it smiled at me. Some horrified parents pulled their kids out of the school and the city is investigating. Director Hedges says, considering everything, she probably won't take another field trip to that sex shop. What do you think? Do we live in a different century where kids know more than we think they do and can handle more than we think they can? Or is this private school an example of a liberal education that's just a tad bit too liberal?
Leave an insightful comment on top.
Residents of a small Ohio town believe a serial killer may be in their midst. Residents of a small town in Ohio believe a serial killer may be on the loose following the disappearance and deaths of multiple women. 5 women have gone missing in Chillicothe, Ohio, a town of 22,000 people. A series of disappearances began in May 2014 when Charlotte Trago, who had a history of heroin abuse, was reported missing by her mother. Tamika Lynch disappeared on the same day. Her body was found on a Paint Creek sandbar later that month. She had cocaine, amphetamines, and alcohol inside her body. 6 months later, in November 2014, Wanda Lemons, who also had a history of heroin abuse, disappeared. In December, authorities found Shasta Himmelrock's car abandoned with an empty tank and the doors left open. Her body was later found in a river with 6 parallel cuts on her left forearm, as well as oxycodone and cocaine in her system. Tiffany Sayer disappeared in May 2015, and her body was found a month later wrapped in a sheet in a wooded area. She also had a history of heroin abuse. Linking the victims, Trego and Lynch knew each other, and all of the women had a history of drug use, with 3 having had an addiction to heroin. Family members believe that the women's history of drug use, as well as several of the women's history of prostitution, kept police from doing more to search for them earlier.
Parents fail selfie attempt. Kids witness them fall from cliff. 2 small children have been orphaned while on vacation in Cabo da Roca, Portugal, after witnessing their parents' accidental deaths. Family from Poland was visiting scenic Cabo da Roca on Saturday. The parents crossed a barrier to take a selfie together near the 140-meter high edge. But while their children looked on, they took 1 step too far back and went over the cliff. A Spanish couple witnessed the accident and called emergency services. Bad weather prevented rescuers from recovering the couple's bodies on Saturday. The couple's bodies were recovered on Sunday. Their children, aged 5 and 6, are in the care of Polish diplomats and receiving counseling.
Mum who left baby in shopping cart facing child endangerment charges. People often leave things behind in their shopping carts. Juice, the groceries they just bought, purses, all manner of things. And babies sometimes, it seems. A 27-year-old mother of 4 in Arizona is facing a misdemeanor charge of child endangerment for leaving her 2-month-old son in a shopping cart. Cherish Peterson was rushing around a Fry's grocery store, grabbing stuff for a nephew's birthday with 3 of her children last Monday. When packing items into her car, she forgot her 2-month-old son, Huxton. She drove away. Lucky for both mother and son, the kid was spotted by an off-duty police officer. The officer took the baby to a nearby salon to see if he belonged to anyone inside. Peterson only realized she was down 1 child on returning home when her 3-year-old son asked her where his brother was. A distraught Peterson was reunited with her baby 40 minutes later at the salon. Social media, of course, lapped this right up and tore the young mother to pieces. Although surprisingly, another group has been defending Peterson and even started a I Stand With Cherish hashtag movement, hoping the prosecutor will drop the charges. What do you think? Good mum who had a bad day, or bad mum?